Pull up a chair and sit alongside the Quiet Council, Krakoa's own ruling body of mutants. Take a peek behind the curtain and see how the sausage of government is made. Just make sure you hold on to your lunch as we dig into Immortal X Men issue number 1. So then, as we join this brand new Kieron Gillen series, we step back in time to 1919. We see Nathaniel Essex sitting on a park bench not long after the end of World War I. He's met by another semi-immortal character in the form of Irene Adler, aka Destiny when she doesn't have the mask on. If this scene looks familiar to you, it absolutely should, because it is very clearly referencing Moira McTaggart meeting Xavier all the way back in Hawks and Pox. Apparently the man who would be Sinister and the woman who would be Destiny have actually known each other for much longer than we thought. They have a very casual back and forth with each other. Essex says that Destiny made quite a scene at the symphony the other night. Apparently something about Edgar's newest piece, Nimrod, really set her off. It's here too that Adler says that she sees another war starting very soon. Again, is she talking about World War II or is she talking about the war on mutants? Both are pretty accurate. Not that Essex and Adler care very much about war, they both view themselves as philosophers, viewers of the horrors that other people have to endure. It's at that moment too Destiny decides to whisper something in Sinister's ear, something so terrible it literally causes him to crumple into dust. Mystique, who is looking very eloquent as always at any point in history, asks her love what that was about, only for Destiny to say, if I ever have to tell you what that was about, then we're all screwed. I ask only that you continue to trust me. From there we move on to the present, where we see that Mr. Sinister has set himself up yet another secret lab for cloning experiments, even though he's totally not supposed to, and even though he's been caught several times doing this sort of thing. Ah yes, not having to follow Krakoa's written laws, just one of the many great fringe benefits that comes with sitting on the Quiet Council. And speaking of the Quiet Council, they're in a lot of turmoil right now. You see, after Professor X and Magneto were outed for having assisted Moira McTaggart in secretly controlling mutant life on Krakoa from behind the scenes, the balance of power on the council shifted. Now more secrets are being shared evenly, and Emma Frost is the one that everyone is looking to as the unofficial head of the table. Magneto isn't having any of this diminished role and decides that if he can't lead, he's just gonna go quit and join the mutant colonies on Mars, figuring they could use his help. After all, the Arakai may be bloodthirsty individuals, but at least when they come at someone with a knife, they stab him in the front, not the back. With Magneto's piss and vinegar tinged exit complete, the matter then becomes who the council is going to choose to take up his place. It's also here too, via internal monologue, Mr. Sinister takes us on a trip of all the remaining members of the council and basically explains to you what their deal are, in case you haven't been keeping up with all the different X-Men books, or this is your first time picking up one of the newer X-Men titles. In case you personally need a refresher, there's Storm, who's currently pulling double duty between here and the mutant colonies on Mars, Colossus, who was asked to join the team to help balance out all the villains, but who is currently working against his will as a double agent for his brother Mikhail and the Russian government. Then you have Nightcrawler, who is currently in charge of creating a brand new mutant religion, while also fostering positive relationships with Legion, one of the mutants' most powerful and unpredictable players, against the will of Xavier. Mystique and Destiny, who were central in the ousting of Moira and the limiting of Xavier and Magneto's power. Frost, Shaw, and Pride, all members of the Hellfire Trading Company, and of course Sinister himself, who knows all of these little factoids, even though maybe he shouldn't, but trust me, by the end of it, it's all gonna make a lot more sense. And with that, we have auditions from would-be council members. There's Angel, who is of course running Krakoa's corporate side right now, helping sell the wonder drugs to humans. You got Abigail Brand, agent of S.W.O.R.D. and part of the mutant space program, who is also secretly conspiring with Orchis, the mutants' most hated enemies. Also Beast, the director of X-Force, the mutant secret police, who has found his own personal morality in a nosedive pretty much since the founding of the nation, and it's only gotten worse. And who could forget Gorgon, former X-Men villain turned hero in the X of Swords event, who had his mind positively turned inside out by death, but who does say that he has a big sword, so can't count him out. Captain K wonders why the council just can't elect from within. After all, Doug, who speaks for the island itself, has basically always been an unofficial member of the group, so why don't they just make it official? Doug turns the job down for a second time, saying that it would only complicate things further, meaning his relationship with Krakoa. Also, let us not forget Doug staying outside of council machinations was the major deciding factor in making sure that Moira couldn't rule the whole island from the shadows anymore. So yeah, Doug is really in the perfect place for him right now. Believe it or not, it's actually Exodus of all people who ends up coming up with a very interesting idea, and that is, why don't they elect someone from the Five to sit on the council? Namely Hope Summers, who it seems that Exodus, being a bit of a religious fundamentalist, now views Hope as a messiah type. I mean, he literally calls her the messiah and says that she's better than Jesus. He also implies that Jesus was a mutant too, so, you know, do with that information what you will. Hope originally turns him down, but as we'll see, she has time to think on it later and readjust. And that's all probably for the best too, considering who the next applicant for a council seat is. Selena, who, if you need to be reminded, is a vampire and a mutant and a magic user, and not that long ago was a member of Hydra. Oh sure, she's got a lot of knocks against her, but she also comes with one hell of a PowerPoint presentation. She says that because Apocalypse isn't a member of the council anymore, the Quiet Council is quickly losing the edge that they need in the magical department. And that if she is elected to a seat on the council, she'll use her vast knowledge of magic to help the Five resurrect all the people who died on Genosha, you know, only this time not as zombies, which is a thing she did. Hope ultimately does make the scene, having thought the whole thing over, and she figures, yeah, you know what, the Five are basically the bedrock of Krakoan society right now. They're beloved by the people, yet they always find themselves in the middle of other people's pissing matches. And so it's put to a vote. We're once again reminded via internal monologue that Sinister is pretty sure he knows how this vote is going to go, yet he is ultimately surprised when he himself becomes the deciding vote. A vote that he later flip-flops and changes on to make sure that Hope actually does become the newest council member, sworn in effective immediately. Now that's all well and good, but Professor Xavier now needs to break the bad news to Selene that she lost, and well, you know what, she's pretty bad at taking bad news, isn't she? Especially when she starts raving about how Apocalypse created his big magic portal by killing a bunch of externals. Deciding now will be the perfect time to take revenge for this slight, Selene summons a giant fire-breathing creature to attack the island. Wow, you know, there's sore losers and then there's monsters summoning sore losers. Well, the council decides to deal with this newest problem. Sinister sees this as the perfect opportunity to slip away back to his lab. It's here that he'll end up dropping several very tasty tidbits of information. He once again invokes the idea of chimera mutants instead of creating a circuit of mutants like the Five using individual mutants. What if in the future we could create a circuit within one individual? Oh, but he doesn't stop there either. You see, Sinister gets quite nostalgic for his early days, being one of the earliest adopters of the scientific method. You do experiments, you push boundaries, you gain understanding, and once you understand everything, you can't be surprised anymore. And if you can't be surprised, well, you're basically the best there is. The unfortunate problem Sinister ran into in the scientific method, though, is that there's only one world and so much time to conduct an infinite number of experiments. But what if that wasn't the case? What if a person could live multiple lives and maintain all of that information? And if you think, hey, that sounds very familiar to what Moira's power was, well, funny thing about that, you see, Mr. Sinister's brand new scheme involves creating an entire farm of cloned Moiras, activating their mutant gene in the same way he activated his own mutant gene, and then having them run a series of simulations over and over again on potential futures, and then taking that information to make it so that Sinister does indeed know all. There's still some bugs in the system, but once it's done, Sinister is certain that this will put him on top in Krakoa and everywhere else. And so that was Immortal X Men issue number 1, everybody, and already I can tell this one isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea. You gotta be ready for a drier, more serious, more Sorkin-esque political drama featuring people with superpowers. Honestly, that's totally my bag, so I was very much invested in what was going on here. I especially love the idea of making Mr. Sinister the POV character here. He's just so chaotic and so much fun, and really is the perfect wrench to throw into these stuffy proceedings. Also, too, this serves as a really excellent catch-up book for X-Men in case you fell off or want to get back in, as Gillen through Sinister basically does a perfect job getting you up to speed on everything that's been happening across several different X-Men books, as well as reprinting a bunch of the most most important and informative appendix pages. It's honestly a great value for how much you get, which is why overall I would give it a very positive 8 out of 10.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.